two-time Gemini winner, five-time ANSMA, African Nova Scotia Music Award winner, nominated Best Hip Hop and R&B Juno, the microphone assassin himself, Garry Papa Grand James, aka DVS Smooth mother. You know what this is?
Yeah. You already know.
Whoa. Welcome to Real Talk, G.
I'm here, bro. I'm here. Where real talk is present all the time. You know?
Damn. So where you been?
I've been chilling. I've been in the barber shop. I've been fiddling still with music still. I've been in Toronto. Living my life for the past 20 years, and then I decided to come home. I'm back down home. I'm rejuvenated. I got my second win. I retired from barbering per se. I got a couple things going on. I'm with my family at ManUp on Main Street, the location that houses black folk. So that's where I want to be. I want to come home and be with a black organization and start planting my seeds again, you know. Fertile soil, and I'm happy where I'm at. I'm like I said, I'm with ManUp, and it brought me to Real Talk. And I'm still new. I'm still getting acquainted with Nova Scotia. This is only my second time in Halifax in a month and a half, so I'm still fresh, you know.
You've been away. You've received differences from when you got back. Because remember, there was an old expression back in the day. That you can leave Scotia and come back, it'll be the same.
It's definitely not the same.
It's not the same. What do you see different now?
Well, the violence, man. The violence has went to a whole new height. There's not as many places to go for to socialize. I never touched the community yet, like the Hammers Plains, North Preston, East Preston, Cherrybrook. I never got, like, when I left, I was in touch, in tune with all the communities and the happenings and the developments, and it's like I lost grasp of it. So that way it changed a lot, infrastructure and, but heritage and culture stays the same. Family stays the same. The people stay the same, but it's just the things that you don't got your hands around. I guess you got to be here for a while. I've been to funerals. I've been to weddings. Those are like invite only now. You know what I mean? Before it was open house.
Open vibe.
Open vibes. Now it's invite only for the weddings and for the, like, I went to a gospel concert the first day I got back. And it was a fundraiser for a young man that was getting surgery in Toronto, and that was a sense of community for my first time, but it was a Friday night or a Saturday night, so it was like a church service, but it wasn't a church service. It was a accumulation of artists, of gospel artists coming together to fundraise, so that was a good vibes.
So you're from East?
I'm from East Preston.
From East Preston?
By way of North Preston, because my family from East Preston that went up North Preston in the 70s, they stayed up North Preston, the Glasgow side. But Glasgow's in East Preston on Glasgow Road, and the Glasgows are in North Preston. And then on my James side, two James women married Simmons men, but the Simmons is like the biggest family up home. So if they never got married, there would be a whole slew of Jameses in North Preston. So both of them married Simmons. So I'm a Simmons, I'm a Willis, I'm a Glasgow, and I'm a James. But maiden names are James and Glasgow.
So you got some Maroon in you then?
I am a Maroon, yes. I'm Maroon from Trelawney. And it's I would have had a book with me if I knew you were going to ask that question. It's funny because Montague James that came here in 1796, he was the captain of the ship that sailed from Trelawney to Halifax, and he was in charge of the Maroons while they were here in Nova Scotia. So I found that the Montague, because his name is Montague James, but Montague Road is named after him, and the graveyard that's at the corner of Montague Road and Main Street, that's where the Maroon Hall was located. So they got rid of the Maroon Hall and put a graveyard on that site. You go further down Montague Road, you got Montague Estates, Montague Golf Course, and Montague Gold Mines. Those are all named after Montague James, so a serious case of reparations is in order for that lineage of my family. But I'm the only one that been back to Jamaica 7 times, been on the Maroon land, been walked the traditional roads and the untraditional roads. I've been to the cave, the Peace Cave, where they conquered the British and signed the treaties. I've dived into Maroon culture, and it's like it's part of who I am. And then the loyalists on the Glasgow side that came in the 1700s, and then again came after the War of 1812 when Robert Glasgow came because he fought for the war, got his freedom, and then he was granted a bunch of land in Preston as well. So my grandfather on my Glasgow side and my grandfathers on my James side were both the 2 biggest farming families in Preston history.
And that's because my family Maroon, we're from Trelawney.
Wow, Trelawney too, boy. Yeah, man.
So, and it's interesting, like when I came here and someone brought me up to North Preston, I thought, holy shit, this is Jamaica.
Yeah, man.
It looked exactly like Jamaica.
And then the dirt road that connects East Preston and North Preston is the road that they ran down to get permanent status in Nova Scotia. But Montague Hill, Colley's Hill, is on the East Preston side. And that was where Governor Wentworth Mansion was located at. And Trelawney, the first Maroon Hall, was on Colley's Hill beside the Colley's Mansion. But when the Sierra Leone Company was formed, Sierra Leone Company was to bring back all the disgruntled Maroons for the weather to Sierra Leone to relocate them and establish a new colony. Out of those 600 Maroons, at least 100 of them ran down that dirt road and hid in North Preston and stayed there. So the dialect and the pronunciation of words, the culture, the heritage, because Maroons weren't by no means willing to convert to Christianity. So they kept a little bit of that in them, but the way that they talk in North Preston is an evolved form of patois. It's an evolved form of patois. I can't, like...
They call it North Prestonese, I
Say it again?
North Prestonese. When I went up to North, I looking at people and like, that's my uncle.
Yeah, man.
That's my brother. Like,
yeah.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why
it's a similar similarities, but it's only so few that can pick up where the ancestors left off, because so many generations it got lost, and then so many generations got wiped away by the indoctrination of Christianity, because Maroon culture didn't believe in no Christianity. You couldn't conform them, and they were trying to, in the 4 years that they were here, they were trying to do things to conform them, and so they could abide by the rules. The Maroons didn't abide by rules; they made their own rules.
That's Maroon culture.
You know what I'm saying?
Do what they do.
Yeah.
You can't really tell a Maroon not.
They can build. They can be soldiers. They can be carpenters. They can be, but they stay within themselves, and they farm the land, and they're so militant that they have a spirituality that I can't describe, because we're not living in them times. Now it's so different, but the Maroon culture still exists, and it exists for me because I have no relations with cops. I have no relations with the church. When I was a kid, my mom put me in church every Sunday, Sunday school, then church, and then I would take a break and then have to go back to church. But as soon as I was able to not go to church without disrespecting her, she released me from the strains of church at 14.
Let me ask, because I noticed that, and it's even someone like myself, like others that are from different cities that have Caribbean and African, we can't really trace our lineage like that.
Yeah.
What's up with Scotians that know their, because you're not the first, every time a guest comes, they tell us about their lineage. They tell us this great-grandfather came in this year.
Yes.
What's up with that? How do you guys keep knowing that?
Well, it's well, I wanted to know it. I wanted to study it. When I read the first book of Malcolm X, it was like at grade 6, it honed me in on what my culture is. Not American culture, not an imposed culture. I wanted to know who my mother's father was, who his father was. So I could trace back 7 grandfathers to 1812 to when that migration came. And then when I was finishing high school, they knew I was a Maroon, but I didn't know I was a Maroon. The government sent me to Jamaica to live for 6 months as a Jamaican exchange student. It was the only all-black Jamaican exchange student program that existed in the world. The only, not America, not Africa, Nova Scotia. It was 7 Scotians, 7 Jamaicans, spent 6 months together, paired up with a Jamaican, living in somebody else's house in Nova Scotia. I lived in Africville at Mr. Mayfield's house, and we went to Jamaica, and I stayed with the Maroons. So it was an eye-opener because I knew I was a Maroon, but the people that were in charge of the program did the research and they knew about Montague James. They just assumed that I knew. I didn't know. And then when I got to Jamaica and I went in the mountains and in the caves, on the trails of the Maroons, a torrential rainstorm started and we had to resort to those caves. So I said, we're walking in the steps of my ancestors. And then she said, your last name's James. You're a descendant of Montague James. And I said, this is deep. So, you know, the popularity of Montague James and that name in Jamaica reigned supreme. So I said, wow, I'm really entrenched in this culture. I gotta learn more. So then I went back 7 times. And I found out that when you're a descendant of a Maroon, you return back to Maroon land in Trelawney or a Kampong town, you're granted land for free, non-taxable for the rest of your life. But I didn't make that step yet because I don't have a connection in Jamaica. Like Maroon land is different from the rest of Jamaica. It's a self-governed state. They have their own constitution, their own heritage, their own culture. They police themselves, they govern themselves. So I made friends, but I didn't make a connection strong enough to say, I want to build a house. But I intend to build the first Scotian Airbnb on Maroon land. So that's a goal of mine, but I have so much to do with land claims back here because my grandfather cultivated an area where I live now. I live on the homestead, and then connected to it is another 38 acres that was old farmland. So I'm trying to gain that back. But then beyond that, I found an island named after my grandfather, my great-great-great-grand, Glasgow Island. So, I mean, I don't know how it's gonna happen, but what black family or black person do you know that got connection to an island off the coast of Nova Scotia? You know what I mean? It's like Lawrencetown is the area, but Lawrencetown used to be all part of the Preston Township. When Preston, the township, was formed, it was 88.1 square miles of land. And that was from an area called Muscadabbit to the area of Micmac Rotary, down to Waverly, down to Woodside. So it was this massive, massive part of land. And then I have a book that documents the the land grants that were given out at the beginning when Preston Township was formed, and it was like each person was given 100 acres plus 10 acres per child in addition to that. So all of that been expropriated, been taken by the white man, pushed back, and so now there's a land titles initiative. So hopefully through the process, I can gain that back.
Now that you're back in Scotia, when you were gone, and because you were the microphone assassin. And I really
debut episode. It was only supposed to be the one episode. It ended up turning it to 25 because I got offered a 3-year contract after that debut of Microphone Assassin. I was only supposed to be in it because I was the most popular rapper of the time. And then the Trailer Park Boys came to my barbershop that was right up the street from this location on Gardican Street. And they came and then they said, yo, you got the job. And I said, wow, that's kind of crazy that they are in my shop. And they're the Trailer Park Boys. And then I had time to rehearse the script, learn the script, and I showed up that day. I went to the dealership. I said, yo, can you guys let me borrow a car before I can make my debut a little bit more impactful? I went and got a Lincoln LS, and I was souped. And I had Jordan, the singer, and Denny Oliver. They were just recently champions of the national basketball scene. So I got them to be my crew. So I showed up with 2 ball players and myself in the Lincoln LS, and the debut just went so good. I knew the script, everything fell into place, and then all of a sudden it aired, and then they kept getting these ratings. So then the production company in Toronto called the production company down in Nova Scotia, and they said, man, you need to offer him a 3-year contract because the ratings were the highest we ever got. And then that made way for me to be a full cast member of the show. And the rest is history because my character gained notoriety, gained a fan base, gained fans, and then season 6, something weird happened. And then,
So, because I remember the Microphone Assassin, that was one of my favorite episodes.
Wow.
I remember
Thank
that
you.
because I was like, he came from Moncton. He drove all the way from Moncton.
Yeah.
That's the same. I didn't know the backstory of that.
Yeah.
So you went on your own and got the props to come bring that in.
Yeah.
Is that part of the whole industry? Is that why you were successful in that? Because you brought other things to the table that other people were just.
I think I just took it serious. I took because I season 2, I wanted to be on the show, but all my other friends were on the show was like extras, and I wanted to be on the show, but I don't know how I got the opportunity, but the opportunity came. I auditioned to 25 people, and then I got the role. And then I said, after I got the role, how am I gonna make my character that much more impactful? And it was getting the car, getting the crew, showing up, and bringing something to the table. They didn't even have no words. It was just their presence. You know what I mean? Big guys, ball players, recognizable for their thing, and then they were paired with me, and they were in the car with me. I don't know. That's probably part of it because I brought something to the table. I never thought of that, but
No, because you go online, and I'm a big boys fan, so I watched all. I stopped watching it, like season 7.
Yeah.
But when you go back to it, everybody's like DVS MF, like
DVS motherfucker, and say DVD. They call me DVD, and multiple guys, and I say DVS motherfucker. You know what I mean? That was like my punchline. It was crazy because that came out of nowhere too, but things kept happening that kept building. But in Trailer Park Boys, I'm the only cast member that didn't live in the trailer park.
Oh.
I have to establish that because my character was only supposed to be in one episode, and then when they needed to get the weed, they needed to get the strippers, they needed to have a concert, they would ask for my help, ask for to put on a rub and tug, like all these episodes, a referee, a ring during the wrestling match. I was a referee, so it was like I kept playing a role. I kept playing an integral role in each episode that made place for my character. But my character was the only full cast member that didn't live in the trailer park. So they never established where I lived at. They never established where I came from, except DVS Detroit Velvet Smooth from Moncton, and that was like their idea, but there's a little bit more to it. You know what I mean? I'll save that for later.
Because that show has a cult following.
It does. And West, they have trailer park nights where the bars are filled with people watching Trailer Park Boys, like Vancouver, Winnipeg, all those Western provinces. It got bigger because it was from Nova Scotia. So it never grew a cult class. It grew a cult following, but it was like home base. Watch Trailer Park Boys on Showcase. Watch Trailer Park Boys on Netflix. And it spread. So I have fan base. I have a fan base like, say 30 million people watch that show. I have a solid 12 million fans that I can still retain, fan retention. You know what I mean? And all those fans that supported me and started sites. Where is DVS? What happened to DVS? Where did DVS go? I have to tap into that because it's not on Showcase no more. It's not on TV, I don't think syndicated, but it's on Netflix. And all my episodes are on Netflix, and Netflix still has a fan base. So I do plan on, per se, doing a spin-off where I plan on retaining those fans.
How often did you get recognized? Because you were in TO for mad years.
I got recognized all the time. And that's how I know that a spin-off is in.
I recognized you because I went to the barber shop. You were working at a barber shop downtown.
Named Onyx, yes.
And I went in there one time and getting my hair cut, and then I think somebody asked, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "I'm from TO, but I live in Scotia." And after you're like, "Oh, you live," and I looked, I'm like, "Yeah, yo, you're DVS."
Wow.
And when you told me your last name was James, like, no, I know the James is back there, and you're like, "That's my family." I was blown away.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, because TO, that's a real Trailer Park Boys fan.
I didn't know because I was.
It's more popular there than it is here. Just to let you know that.
I didn't know. I thought that I left Nova Scotia to go to Toronto to do the film festival with Danny Glover and walk the red carpet. I wanted that experience. And then I decided to stay there and leave Trailer Park because of the success of the movie. And then I was one time going down Yonge Street by myself during Caravana. And guys with Range Rovers were driving up the street on Yonge Street. Yo, DVS! Yo, DVS! And I said, yo, this is crazy. How are these black people recognizing me from Trailer Park Boys? I thought Trailer Park Boys was reserved for white people. I thought it was a white thing. And I don't, by all means, I'm not saying, I thought Trailer Park was a white audience. And then I got to Toronto, and then I got to another Caravana incident. I was rolling with Jamal McGlure of the NBA. And Jamal McGlure played for New Orleans Hornets. He was a all-star. He was almost a MVP of the all-star game. And we showed up at the club with a massive entourage of NBA players. And in the lineup, the girls recognized me and not the NBA players. They was like, yo, Divya. And then but the bouncer said, yo, well, I guess you're getting it for free. And then I bypassed the line because of the love of the people in line for fucking me, bro. And then I clued in. It's like Trailer Park Boys did something. Like it did something, but it kind of like I didn't know if I was typecast or not for my character because of that type of show. So I cut my dreads off, and then I went on to be a barber. I ended up being a barber, and I wasn't suffering, so I ended up falling back from acting for a while. And I got an agent, and the agent wasn't calling no more, getting me gigs. And then I started picking up, I got a couple of movies under my belt.
Poor Boys Game, I remember that.
Poor Boys Game, that was Danny Glover. And then Gracie's Choice, it was a Reversible Errors. There were numerous movies, but I mean, it probably capped off at 5. But then my agent got me a couple of auditions that were wishy-washy. They were characters that I said that I wouldn't play. And then he stopped getting me gigs. So when he stopped getting me gigs, I just focused on barbering, and then I bought a condo, and then 20 years later, I'm just like, you know what, 33 years barbering, maybe I should take a break, take a back burner. I retired, I came home just so I could get a grasp of what home really is in black organizations, because I always wanted to work for a black organization, no matter what level it was at, but I found myself with ManUp, and I'm happy to be with them, you know?
And because you did a lot, I remember you had a few barbershops. Like you weren't just a regular guy just cutting hair.
Yeah. It was Onyx, and then it transitioned to Pop's Barbershop, and that was for 5 years. And then the pandemic hit, so then I opted out the lease, and then I joined forces with Raekwon. Raekwon at the Purple Factory. He has a barbershop in Toronto called the Purple Factory, named after the Purple Tapes. So it was the first time I ever partnered with an American. And it was cool, because, you know, he made like 6 appearances. He brought Nas with him 3 times. He brought RZA, brought a Spectre Deck. I was friends with Lord Finesse. Lord Finesse came through, Method Man, Redman. Oh my gosh, it was like a barbershop with Wu-Tang symbol as the mirror. And it was in Regent Park, the original hood, but the original hood of Toronto was first occupied by Scotians. So I'm in a place that got Scotia as a foundation before the Africans, before the Nigerians, before the Jamaicans, before the Asians. Scotia was present in Toronto, in Regent Park and Alexander Park. So I felt like I was home, but it wasn't my shop. It was Raekwon's shop. So I stayed there for 3 years, and that was where I hung my hat. I hung my hat there, and then I retired.
You weren't suffering, so it was.
Yeah.
So that whole opportunity that you made yourself, 25 people went up for the audition.
Yeah.
You were the only one you blew it out the park.
Yeah.
You put your own props in. You brought your own crew in.
Yeah.
You made it big. You made it bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked out well for you.
It definitely did. It definitely did. I can't say I've ever suffered. You know what I mean? Financially, I cut hair, or I acted, or I did my music, and it just kept me afloat. If I got low or I got high, I stayed in my condo, and then I made things happen on my own. You know.
Was that before Scotia Bounce? I remember that too.
Oh, Scotown Stomp?
The Scotown.
That
was what it was.
Scotown Stomp was before I went to Toronto. That had a little bubble. Yeah.
You know, but I remember after the tragedy with Trayvon Martin, you did a fantastic.
Woo!
Wow. Line for line.
Wow.
Yo,
wow.
Line for line.
I didn't know that people knew about that track. I made the track for the streets, and for I always make my music for the people. I've never didn't make my music for the people. And that was an American, but it was such a tragedy that I had to make a song called Contemplation. And I did a remix of it, and that I performed for Lauryn Hill as her opening act. But the first place I opened for her was in Halifax at the Jazz Festival with Cindy Kane. And because she allowed me, what was crazy though, is that I was on Facebook and I saw the opening act. I mean, I saw that Lauryn Hill was coming, and I said, I gotta be the opening act for that. So my manager got me her number, and got me your email. So that night I sent the email, but I was reading the law of attraction. And page 100 said, if you want to manifest something, write it down and then email it. Don't send it through an electronic device. So I wrote a letter to Lauryn Hill telling her about the place where she was going to be performing. I don't know who brought you here to Nova Scotia, but I'm going to let you know that the place where you set your stage up is the place where the Maroons parked their ship, where Marcus Garvey parked his ship and said his speech, where slaves were sold. And I gave her a whole lineup of the grounds that she was going to be performing. And then she said, bruh, like, will you be my tour guide? Will you take me to these places? The Black Culture Center, Africville, Citadel Hill, and Preston. I had it lined up. I got a bus, and she said, I want security for my family and my crew. And then she got stuck at the border in Maine, so that held her back for 7 hours. So I wasn't able to do the tour, but I was able to do an opening act. And the day I showed up to do sound check, she pulled up in her bus, and I'm like standing off the side of the stage, and then she said, "Yo, you must be Garry." And I said, "How do you know that?" She said, "I can just tell by your aura and your presence and your confidence. But I'm gonna go do sound check, and then we'll catch up later on." And I'm like, oh fucking. Like, what am I supposed to do? You guys see that? I'm with my man, RS Smooth. And he was like, yo, how Lauren know you like that? And I said, I can't answer that because this is the first time we didn't even get introduced. Like, it was all via email.
You guys never met at that point?
No, we never met at that point. It was via email, bro. And it was messages through email that she agreed because of the honesty and the truthfulness of my email to her, letting her know the significance of the history of the waterfront where slaves were sold, where the Maroons, where Marcus Garvey said his speech. And then by chance, the spiritual realm, during the show, she started her show, and then the thunder, all of them had to get off the stage. From a distance, you could see the thunder and the rainstorms, so they had to get off the stage because the mics can be electrocuting because they're metal. So they cleared the stage after they cleared Lauryn Hill, and then my mentor in Jamaica is Mama G. Mama G is the head of the Maroons. She's the Maroon guru.
Didn't she link up with Snoop too? Was that her?
No.
That wasn't her?
No.
Okay.
That was a Rastafarian. That was, I can't remember his name, but it was a high priest Rastafarian. And she's a high priestess Rastafarian, but she's a Maroon chiefess. So she used to tell me with Rita Marley when we were in Jamaica on the waterfront that they can change the weather, they can call on the weather, they can call on the rain. And I was like, this is unheard of, that you guys got the power to cause a rainstorm. And then a butterfly, believe it or not, a butterfly with the same pattern landed on her shoulder, and she had the same pattern of an African daishiki. So that being said, I remembered that when I was in Nova Scotia, and I said, that means the ancestors are present with that rainstorm and those clouds, and then the rain's coming towards us. I said, yo, Lauren, that means the ancestors are present because of us honoring Marcus Garvey, the Maroons. And then she said, she called Rita Marley. She called Rita Marley and said, yo, you remember a guy named Garry that came to Jamaica and that you were talking to him and you guys were inaugurating him in Maroon culture and yeah. And then Rita Marley acknowledged it, so Lauren took a liking to me right away because she called her mother-in-law at the time, she was with Rohan Marley. She got 5 kids with Bob Marley's grandchildren. So it was like Lauryn Hill, Rita Marley, the Maroons. I have somehow made this connection that I wouldn't want to get rid of, but I cannot get rid of, because even when I returned to Jamaica and went up into the mountains after 17 years, 5 minutes of me getting to the Maroon village, I was surrounded by all the Maroons that I met 17 years ago. And they did a prayer for me. And then the song that they sing in patois, I can't break it down, but the Halifax Maroons are going to come back to Trelawney and Accompang Town one day, and they'll regain the strength that they once left with. Because when they were deported because they were the Trelawney Town Maroons, and they were the aggressors. They were the ones that were hanging pigs by nooses on plantations, freeing the slaves, and doing all these things that broke the treaty. So they just said, yo, we got to get rid of these Maroons. Where are we going to send them? Miami, North Carolina, Haiti. There was all these different places, but they sent them to Halifax. So when they got to Halifax, they parked up, rebuilt the Citadel Hill, iron fortifications, and they decided to keep them, but they didn't know where they were going to put them to work. So they gave them land and the Maroon halls in East Preston, and stayed for 4 years. They got too cold, got disgruntled, and then they went to Sierra Leone. And then in Sierra Leone, they built the first church, the first colony of free black people. And it was like, it's like Ghana, and the thing is, Ashanti tribe is really the focal point, because Ashanti tribe have the ebeng horn, the cow horn, that you can do, and you could do a language with the ebeng horn, and that's how they conquered the British. So the Ashanti tribe were captured, one of the greatest tribes in Africa. They were kidnapped, taken from the Ghana slave castles to Jamaica, where they fled the ships, ran up into the mountains, and became the Maroons. When they became the Maroons, they had a 130-year war with the British, won, and then there was a period of time before the Second War where they broke the treaty. And then the Maroons, after they broke the treaty, went to Halifax and went to Sierra Leone. So Ghana to Jamaica to Halifax to Sierra Leone, and I can trace Montague James through the whole Middle Passage. So, you know?
You know, it's interesting you were talking, because like I used to live in Jamaica when I was younger, and when I went back as an adult, I had those kind of the weirdest things. Like I was out in the field, the ancestors come to you.
Yes.
All the things that you're saying, like, and I notice anybody who goes back home has that kind of feeling. Like there's something the ancestors call them.
Yeah, the cockpit country. You know,
some people can be scary for a moment. You know what I'm trying to you collect yourself. You know
what? I went there with the Maroon chiefess, and she was 78 years old, and I went up into the mountains for the Maroons my first time with her alone. So I knew I had protection, but it was a heavenly protection. Because, I mean, there's a lot of bad men between Montego Bay and Kingston and the rest of Jamaica. It has 30,000 murders, and the Maroon village has 5 murders in 220 years. So you know that there's a greatness about that Maroon culture and that Maroon stuff. But what you're saying about when you return home, you just have that presence, right?
It was almost, and I've heard other people say when they went to Ghana and because I'm Maroon, I went back. It can be scary for a second. Like when that happens, because you don't feel that vibe in Canada, and when you get back home, it's like you could feel the ancestors, and that's not a joke. The little thing you talk about, the butterfly, that was happening to me.
Yeah, bro, cosmic.
It was. I was even working on the fields one time because my family had some land there, and then I actually saw, because they actually, after slavery was abolished, they just stayed on the land.
Yes.
And I saw the little hut thing, like it was like under some makeshift bridge. That's where the slaves lived. And that, so I kind, and the whole day I was working, I caught a vibe from that little area. And then we were walking, my cousin goes, oh, that's where they used to keep the slaves. And I was like, my mind was drawn to that place the whole day I was there. There was something pulling me towards it.
Yeah.
So I know what you were saying about
Yeah, man.
the feeling in the aura.
Yeah. It's always a magical, spiritual feeling, but you can't put associated with something because it's like Maroon heritage, Maroon culture, and it's ingrained. But the government of Jamaica now is even trying to override the treaty, trying to take back the lands for mining and whatnot. But the new colonel, the chief, they're about that life. So I think they're about to return to like Maroon ways to conquer some of those American mining companies and some Canadian too. But I want to return, but I know my priorities is in Nova Scotia right now.
So you're back home, you're here, no place like home.
No place like home. It feels good to be back home.
I always found it interesting that a lot of Scotians, because Scotians around the globe, like wherever you go, you're gonna see some Scotians.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys are never sad to come back home. I noticed that. It's always a happy thing.
I was doing well. I was doing well in Toronto, and I had like partnership of Raekwon, a great name for myself in the barbering community. But it comes a time where you constantly dream, you constantly envision things that you want to do, but you can't do it from Toronto. You have to return home. And I'm 46, so by the time I'm 50, I plan on having some things in motion.
RS was here the other day.
Okay. RS Smooth, big up.
That's it. The Scotown Stomp.
The Scotown.
He produced that, didn't he?
Lamar, my cousin, Scotia. He goes by Scotia. Lamar Glasgow, he goes by LA now. And RS Smooth sung on the hook, and it was like he produced it, RS Smooth enhanced it, and then I performed it, and then we all did the video together.
Because he was in there. We're talking about like the music industry here. I've noticed that there's a lot of like yourself with acting. You have Big Kirk with boxing, Wigginton with the ball. Is there something with the hip hop hasn't really elevated to that point yet of where all the other things are in terms of that?
I just think that an African Nova Scotian has never been part of the machine, of the industry. The machine, Jamie Sparks got a taste of the machine. The beginning was MCJ and Cool G with the machine. And then you have the local scene with Bon Shaw, RS Smooth, myself, that we never were able to be a part of the machine. And then when EMI reached out to make a compilation so artists from here could get to another level, they called me first. EMI called me first. But when they heard my music, they replaced me on that list, on that compilation. They, with a white guy, Casper. Casper was his name. And then they got Classified. And then Classified was adopted by the machine, made by the machine, fueled by the machine. So I could say that an African Nova Scotian hip hop artist has never been accepted from the machine or the industry. You have a lot of rappers, but a lot of rappers, the most they could get was Video Fact. And then I got the Video Fact, but then I found out that Classified was on the board. I went to the Junos, and he's like, yo, congratulations. I said, what are you congratulating me for? He said, oh, you got your grant. I said, how do you know I got the grant? He said, oh, I sit on the board. So he's not only on the board, he's part of the machine, and he's a part of the board. So all the opportunities will go to those guys in that realm. Like, if you're on the board, you're automatically getting approved for Video Fact. Olympics, he was performing his song. But, you know,
I remember Video Fact. Video Fact was the only way back in the day
to get on Much Music.
That was the only way to get on there because video equipment was so expensive back then. Like now, you can just even do it on your iPhone, grab a nice mic, and you're good.
Yeah.
Back in the days, you had to have Video Fact back you. I think it was what 50%. So you put 50, they put 50. Is that how it worked?
Yeah.
So whatever if your video would cost 20 grand, you put 10, they put 10. And you'll be all right.
Yeah.
I remember.
And then it would get rotation on Rhapsody, on Much Music, on Extendamix and whatnot. But it was like a strategy. If you want to be a part of that machine independently, you would have to have a video, but you would also have to have a CD or a cassette manufactured and put in HMV, so the video would be like a commercial, and it would send the people to the record store to buy the record, the single or the album. But most black artists never had a follow-up. They just went for the video, like me. They went for the video to get some promotion, to get some, but Skulltown Stomp did reasonably well, and then people wanted to follow up. People were singing it in Toronto. DJs were playing it in clubs, and I was like, whoa, this song is like doing more than I expected. So I just rode the wave, and then it died off. But
so even, and I was asking Smooth this the other day, what advice, before we wrap up, what kind of advice would you give to young artists who still want to do it? There's young cats out there who still want to get in the game.
Because now it's a streaming world, streaming platform. So I took a back seat before the streaming started. One of my ideas was put my album on a USB stick in the shape of a barber pole. I was gonna be, because I'm a barber, I'm Pops from the barbershop, I was gonna get 10,000 USB sticks, and you can get them for like $1 each if you bought that many of them. And it was a barbershop pole, you take off the top, and then that's a USB stick. If I performed live, and that was my thing, I didn't have albums, I didn't have singles, my thing was performing live. And then if you perform live, you can have a merch section. And then my USBs would be for sale. So that's how you can generate income. But today, there's Tidal, there's all these different streaming platforms, but you have to get on a playlist. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of what I would do to give advice. Because you can produce yourself now, you can record yourself now, you can take it to a studio and get it mixed down. So I would say to get on a playlist, or get on as many playlists as possible. I guess, because if not, you have to create your own audience, and creating your own audience comes from live performances. But I was old school with it. I stuck to live performances. I stuck to a couple open mics, but I was in Toronto, so I didn't really try to be an artist when I went to Toronto. I tried to be Lauryn Hill's opening act, and then I accomplished that, and then she called me back. I got to do 2 shows in Massey Hall. Massey Hall is like the legendary performance venue of Canada, let alone Toronto. And then on the second night, Lauryn Hill took me in the alleyway and she said, yo, I don't usually do this, but do you want to be my opening act for the remainder of this tour, Diaspora Calling Tour? And it was 33 dates in America, and then there was Europe, but I didn't have a passport. But that opportunity comes once in a lifetime. And I was glad to get the opportunity because I had Lauryn Hill co-sign my music and my story and the Scotian story. And if I got to do that tour, I would have manufactured my album that I was performing live on CD, and then I would have been able to sell that to American audience. So that was my break. That was my break that came, but I never got to fulfill, because if I got to sell 2,000 or 1,000 USB sticks to a crowd of 5 to 10,000 people for 33 dates. That would have been like, and I was getting paid a certain amount. So I would have got 100 grand plus the merch would have sold and the t-shirts would have sold, and then I would have generated an audience, and then I maybe would have became an older rapper playing a young man's game. Because then I would have got into streaming, I would have got into merchandise, and then I would have captured the audience because I was the only no-name person that invited on that tour. The other invites were Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, Common Sense, Talib Kweli, D'Angelo. It was like all those people that when she shows up late, all the other artists are there to open up for her, so she never really shows up late. She's backstage waiting to come on stage. So by me being the only opening act, I was her buffer zone. But she has to like your music in order to be, 100%. You know what I mean? So I still got it in me, but I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know if it's gonna be through ANSMA or if it's gonna be through an opening act, but I still got the artistry in me. I probably will return to it someday, but I play it by ear.
Yo. Anything else that we missed that you think is important?
No, not really. Bless up for the interview,
Yo. DVS Smooth, Big Bag Garry Papa Grand James.
Yeah.
Scotian royalty.
You remind me of where I came from, baby.
Mad love and respect, G.
Yeah, man.